All right. So yesterday we did. Okay, so Shikha has joined. So yesterday we saw the single row functions, and we also saw if then else case statements, right? And we did saw the decode and NVL, not the decode, but the NVL function, and some other upper lower functions, to char, and then to date and to number, and data type conversion functions, and so on. So I'll just quickly review the if then else. So if then else is a very important and very useful logic for in developing any program, and it's available in all the softwares. Without the if then else, there is no software I can ever think of. So that's the beauty of if then else. And even though SQL is not a programming language, it is just a query language. SQL has a if then else equivalent in the form of case statement. And how case works is you type case, okay, and then this is your if condition. So basically, you type case and then you give your if condition, and then you say if this is equal to what. Okay, if this is equal to what. So this is how you give. You say case if this, then if this is equal to IT program, then do this. Else, if this is equal to st underscore clerk, then do this. If this is equal to SA rep, then do this. Else means if this job underscore id is not equal to any of these, like IT program, st clerk, and SA rep, then do what? So then just print the salary. Don't do anything, just print the salary, and then you end the if then else statement with the end statement, and you give the new column name to it, and and when you run the query, you get a new column, and it makes sure that your if then else statement is properly ran. So that's the beauty of the if then else statement. And then yesterday we also saw one more if then else statement. I think we did saw the if then else statement with the decode, we did something uh, with the expression where salary was less than 5,000, then print something. Where salary was greater than 10,000, then print something. Where salary was greater than 15,000, then print something. So that's what we saw yesterday, and today we are going to be starting with the decode function. All right, so let's move on to the decode function, and let me erase all drawings. Okay, so here we go. So all right, so we have a similar to if then else, okay, a similar to case function, and this is called decode function. Guys, please mute yourself. This is called decode function. How this works is, and this is also very much used in SQL, because even though it is similar to case statement, but it is much easier to write. Okay, that's why I use it all the time, because it is much easier to write. Of course, there are some limitations. There are a lot of things that you cannot do in the decode statement. You have to use the case, but case takes more time, because you have to type case, and then the expression, and then when, and then statement, then else, and all that stuff. So I use decode a lot. How decode function works is, it has this syntax decode, and then the column or the expression, and then you say search one. Okay, so basically what you are doing here is, this is again the if then else statement only, but what you are doing is, you are saying if this is equal to this, which is search one, then do this. Okay, if this call expression is equal to search 2, then do result 2, and so on, right? And then in the end, you can say default. Default means if none of the above, like these searches were found, then do this. So if this is similar to if then else, let's see how this works. let's see how this works. So this is a if then else statement, and we did this. This is the same what we have in the case statement. So let's try to run this, okay, and see what results we are going to get. Okay, I think my screen is not shared, so uh, I have to share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, let me run the script. Okay. So what it's doing is it's doing the same thing what we did in case, but here it's doing decode, and I'm saying if job ID is IT program, then give 10% to to all the employees who are in IT program of their salary, and if it's ST clerk, then give 15% bonus to all the employees. And if it's SA rep, then give 20%. And if none of these are there, then for all the remaining employees, just give the salary. And it's the same column. So this is exactly same to what we did in the case statement. And let me write the case statement here. So this is exactly same. So this and this is exactly same, but here I'm writing lot, right? Case, then, you know, all that, else, and here I'm just saying decode, and that's it, minimum. So I'm saving a lot of my time, lot of memory, and you know, it's more quicker. So that's how I use the decode statement. Now yesterday we also saw that in the case statement there was something we saw yesterday, like there was a case statement where we said like case where we did something like this salary, um, uh, we did something like this, like salary greater than 5,000, then 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 just say low, right? And when salary was less than 5,000, so, and then when salary was less than, let's say, 10,000, then say medium, right? And then when the salary was greater than less than 15,000, right? Less than 15,000, then just say high. Something like this we did yesterday, right? So can we do this in decode? Because in decode, I am putting a job ID here, right? I'm not putting an expression. I'm just putting a job ID. So can we do it here? So the answer is no, we cannot do it like this way, because you have to put some statement, some search result here. And when I'm saying salary is less than 5,000, I'm not putting any search here. So how can I do that? That's the question. How can we do that? So in decode there is a way of doing it, but that's not similar to what we did yesterday with the case statement. So I'm going to show you how we can achieve this, but we have to use our brain, and you know, if we have to um, use the decode. Okay, so I'm going to say select decode, and then I will say uh, salary is less than 5,000. So I'll say, what I'm going to do is I'll say salary minus 5,000. Okay, is salary minus 5,000. is equal to 0, right? Then print low, like that, right? Something like that from employees. But still I'm not going to get the exact result. So even if I do this, some of the salaries are not correct. So I mean the salaries are correct, but here there is one more problem. We are using low, and decode is expecting a character, right? So we have to convert this into 2_char first, 2_char, and then use 0. But it will work only for 0, right? Let's see, it might have already converted it to as a typecast. Let's see if I get any result. I did not get any result. Why? Because probably it's not getting 0. Let's say I'm going to put a high here. Let's see if I get any result. I get a result. So all the salaries are more than 5,000, or if there is some, then oops, actually I ran for everybody. Okay, so I see these salaries. So there is this salary for 4,800. Okay, and still it is saying high. Why? Because when I'm saying salary minus 5,000, the result is in negative. Okay, and I am saying that it has to be 0. So I cannot say less than 0, right? I'm going to match it with the exact same figure. And because it's not showing me that way, that's why I'm not getting it. So if I change it to 4,800, okay, and then if I run it, oops, actually, let's change to 2cat to this one. We don't need it. Even though it should not give me an error, but okay. So if I run this for, let's say I run it for 4,800, there was a 4,800 somewhere. Um, yeah, here. So see, for 4,800, I got low. So I have to say the exact thing here, right? Now what I can do instead is I have to use a nested function, right? I have to use another function here to say, for example, I can use mod, okay, and instead of salary with this, I can like for 5,000, I have to divide it by 5,000 and see what kind of a mod I'm getting if my mod is, whatever. Other than that, I can also use one more function, which is a sign function. Okay, and sign function I can use, and if I can say if it is 0, then that means it is exact equal. If it is in negative, which is -1, then it is low, and otherwise it is high, something like that. So uh, there are a lot of different ways. If I want to achieve this, I can achieve. So for example, here what I'm saying is, if sign is in negative, right? Oh, actually it should be -5,000, not divided by 5,000. Right? So when I'm saying if salary -5,000 is if I get a negative number, okay, so here I'm going to get a negative number, then print low, otherwise print high. So in that case, for this I'm going to get low wherever I'm going to get in negative, and for all the others I'm going to get positive. So that way I can achieve something. But as I mentioned, decode has the restriction. The restriction is I cannot do an expression search here. I have to match with the exact amount. Okay, so that's the problem. Exact amount, it's exact number or exact character, whatever it is, but it should be exact, right? So that's why I cannot use decode. I can use decode for nulls for NVL. Okay, I can use decode for NVL. I can say if this is null, then print something else. So for example, I can say commission commission underscore, if commission underscore percent is null, okay, and all I do is this, I do not say is null because it has to match. So is null, then I want to print, let's say, not applicable, right? And if it is not null, then I just want to print commission underscore percent. Okay, and then I'm going to run this. So what it does is it says if commission underscore percent is null. So let's see, because this way we won't be able to see who has the commission percent or not. Okay. So for example, all of these guys who do not have commission percent, their value is null. I am printing NA, but those who have commission percent, I'm printing them as is, right? So that's very easy to do with decode. I can do that way. Also, I can say if commission percent is, let's say, 0.3, right? So if I say if it is 0.3, then print 3, something like that, right? So if it is 0.3, then print 3. Like that, I can use decode function. So that's why we use decode very often, because it's very easy to do. The only restriction that decode has is that whenever you are doing some kind of an expression search, right, with a true or false, then that will not work. Okay, so for that you have to use a case statement. All right. Do you guys have any questions here? Okay, so this is for you, guys. You can turn on your mic and answer this quiz. The quiz is the to underscore number function converts either character strings or date values to a number in the format specified by the optional format model. So what is the answer? True or false? What it's saying is the to underscore number function can convert character string or date value to a number. Can it do that?
I think so.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, are you guys both saying true? Okay, the answer is false. Okay, the answer is false. Why? Because I told yesterday that to underscore number cannot convert date to number. Okay, let's go back. Okay, see here, this is my date. Okay, this is the only function that cannot convert. So this is my date, and this is my to underscore number. Okay, nowhere I can do to underscore number to convert this to number. Got it? To character can be converted. Okay, character can be converted to number if it is in a number format. So for example, if I'm saying, like, if I'm putting my character as like this within the quotes, or I'm putting like this within the quotes, or 100 but within the quotes, so this becomes my character because these are within the quotes. But when I'm saying to underscore number, SQL understands that since this is a number, even though it is marked as character, it converts it into into number. So that kind of character can be converted. But if it is date cannot be converted, right? And it has to be in the exact format that it can convert, right? So let's see that as well. Okay, let's go back. Let's see. Select, for example, I'm saying to underscore number, okay, and I'm saying AAA, and I'm saying from 12. Okay, it says invalid number. You cannot convert this AAA. But if I say 100, okay, converted. So it has to be, even though if it is a character, it has to be in a number format, right? So that it can convert. So to underscore number does not work with date. It works with character, but it has limitations. Okay, it has limitations. All right, let's move on to the day 5 class. Okay, you guys can mute yourself. All right. So today we are going to be learning about group functions, and then how we will use the group functions for multiple row functions, right? So that's how we will be showing. So these are multiple row functions, and what they do is they take multiple rows and give a single row output. Okay, they take multiple rows and gives a single row output. So here you can see the group function. Uh, it's taking multiple salaries and giving me one single row. So unlike single row functions, group functions operate on sets of rows. Okay, it's a set of rows to give one result per group. Okay, these sets may comprise the entire table or maybe a set of a table. Okay, split into multiple groups like that. So let's see how that works. Okay, and what are the other different group functions we have. So these are the different group functions that we have average, we have count, we have max, min, standard deviation, okay, sum and variance. These are some of the group functions. So what does average do? Average gives me the average value, whatever I'm going to pass in the function, the average value of those, and all of these group functions ignore null values. So when I say ignore null values, that means they include the null values into their calculation. Okay, they consider that null value as probably 0 and then include them. Okay, that's the problem with them. So they ignore the null value. So for example, let's say I'm calculating the average. So and I have 5 students, okay, who did very good out of 100. So I'm taking the average of that. So I'm saying 5 divided by 100, right? I'm taking the average of that. So when I'm saying 5 divided by 100, if all of these hundreds are not null, then it will take 100. But if any of these are null, it will ignore them and it will not take them as into my calculation and will give me a wrong result. So we need to be very careful when we are using these group functions. We need to make sure whether we want null or whether we do not want null rows. Okay, so we'll see them. So what does average AVG does? AVG gives me the average value, ignoring the null. What does count do? Count give me the number of rows. Okay, number of rows, and there are different options that I give in count. I can give star. I can give distinct. I can give expression or the column. So I can do a lot of things. Then what does max do? Max give me the maximum value of whatever expression or column I pass. What does min do? Min gives me the minimum value. What does standard deviation, std dev give me? Standard std dev give me standard deviation. This is a math concept. What does sum do? Sum gives me the summary of my total column rows that I'm passing. So it gives me the sum of that. What does variance do? Variance give me the variance of the columns of that I pass. Okay, that's what these functions do. Let's see the next. So what is the syntax of the group functions? So the group functions, I use them in the select statement, right? So I immediately after select I can use group functions. Okay, and I can also use I can also mix them with the column names, okay, and then group function. And it doesn't matter which order I do that. I can put column name first, then the group function, or group function first, and then the column name. It doesn't matter. I can do all of that. So, and then followed by the same from clause, where clause, order by clause, right? If you notice here, my where clause and my where clause and my order by clause has these brackets, right? Has these brackets. Why these brackets? Because these are optional. Whether I want to give, if I want something, if I don't want, then I'll not give. But this is my always, whenever I'm running a select statement, I need to have a select clause and a from clause. Without this, without these two, I cannot run a select statement. So that's why these are required, mandatory, and the other two are optional. All right. Let's see.
I had a question in the where clause. If we need to give two choices, then how do we do it?
Like what?
Say for example, from a table, I need to choose um, uh, like people with this department number and this department number. If I
Yeah.
need to choose
Yeah.
something from one
So
department number, how do we do it?
because you haven't done the practice, that's why you are asking me this. If we go back, long back, in the second day, okay, we did the AND operator here, right? Look at this. This is the AND operator, and this is exactly what you are asking that we did. So if when salary is greater than 10,000, greater than equal to 10,000, and job ID like man percent, or I can use or depending on what result I want, or I can do when salary is greater than equal to 10,000 or less than 5,000, right? Something like that. So I can do lot of I can add lot of where clause, but those where
Okay,
clause
but what if we have to choose two different clauses from the salary column only? Then what do we do?
yeah, we did the same thing yesterday as well. Yesterday there was a practice question, okay, and in that question we did there was something we did in this practice question. Okay, number 7, question number 7. The HR department
Yeah.
needs a report that displays the last name and hire date of all employees who were hired in 1994, right? And what we did between clause, and then we did.
Okay. Okay. How about we go with to question number 5? Do you see this? Display the last name and department ID of all the employees in department 20 or 50 in ascending order. So,
Okay.
do we have to do it either 20 or 50, or it's both of them?
Yeah, it's one in department
It's
20
one, right?
or department 50. Okay, so
Okay,
this is.
that's good then. Yeah, that's what my question was, because I've been trying doing this with both of them together and I was getting error. I managed to do it with one in the first go, but yeah, I was trying to do it both. So that's what I was asking. How do we use where clause from the same column twice, like
Okay.
using two different wheres?
Yeah, so this is how you will do it. Okay, where department underscore ID is equal to 20 or department underscore ID is equal to 50. Okay, I'm using
I
or
did it,
clause.
but I don't know, it got me an error for some reason.
Then you need to check what you did in your query, because if it's giving you error, read the error. Okay, sometimes it gives a meaningful error message. Sometimes the error message is not that meaningful and we cannot figure it out, but there must be some other problem. So this is one way of doing it. There is another way of doing it. Okay, the another way of doing it is where you will say department underscore ID in comma 50. This is another way of doing this. So you can achieve this same result by using any of these clause. Got it?
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Let's move on. Okay. So here we were. All right. So yeah. So now we will see how the average and sum functions work. Okay. So let's copy this first. Okay. Let's copy this first and see and run it and see what result we get. And then we will do it that way. Okay. So now here you can see I am trying to do average salary and then the maximum salary, then the minimum salary, and then the sum of salary of all employees where job ID is in wrap. Now it could be a sales wrap or whatever other wraps I have. I want the salary of all of that. So if I run like this, job underscore ID in employees, okay, I should get the job ID of all of this. Okay, guys, unmute yourself. I'm going to ask you one question. Um, okay, my question is, I am getting the job ID right here, and these job IDs are repeated. I don't want the repeated. I just want the unique ones. How do I get that?
Distinct.
That's right. So I'll just use the distinct. Okay, I'll use distinct and it will give me all the job IDs. Now I want only the wrap. So it's saying wherever the wrap is, right? So I have HR wrap and then I have SA wrap, marketing wrap, PR wrap. All of these I want how much is the average salary these people are getting, and then what is the max salary these people are these employees are getting, what is the minimum salary this employee is getting, and then what is the sum of, like, the total salary includes everyone in this wrap, how much is that. So if I want to do this, and these are like, so group by functions you'll use in a lot of analytical queries, lot of analysis, you will use the group by functions. So it's telling me that this all the employees who have the job ID as rep in them, the average salary of these is 8272. Okay, and then the max salary is 11,500. So somebody is earning 11,500, that's the max salary. Min salary is 6,000. The total is 2,273,000, right? 273,000. So that's what I'm getting from here, right? Now we see that the average, max, min, and sum, all of these I'm using it for salary, right? And salary is my numeric column, right? Can I do average of, let's say, last underscore name? Give me the average of last underscore name. No, I cannot.
No.
That's right. I cannot use the average of last underscore name because average has to have a numeric value. Similarly, sum has to have a numeric value, right? I cannot say sum of all the last underscore names. So these two have to have the numeric values. But max and min will work with the characters also. Okay, and we'll see them in the next slide. But they work with the characters also. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Now we are doing the max and min, and it says here max, min work for numeric, for character, and for date. All three data types. Okay, let's see how this works. So when I run this, I am getting what is the minimum hire date. So who is the oldest employee, right, in my organization? When did he join? So he joined in 17 June 87. And who is the latest employee? When did he join? So he joined in 21 April 2000, right? So I get the most senior and most junior employee. Now, let's say I want to do the same thing for the last name. Instead of this, I want to do it for the character, right? I want to do it for the character, and then I run it, and I get Abel and this other guy Zilotki. So I get two names. Now how I get these two names? So what it does is it gives me, based on the employees, it gives the who in the alphabetical order, right? Their name is in the alphabetical order. In the minimum, when I'm doing the minimum, it checks whoever is the alphabetical order as the minimum, and then for the maximum it goes in the reverse. Okay, so what it does is it gives me the employee where the last name, that is the first, and the last name, that is the last, in an alphabetic list of all employees. So if I do alphabetic list of all my employees, this guy will be the first, and if I do alphabetic list of all the employees, this guy will be the last. So that's how I can do it for the character. Now let's move on to the next one, using the count function. Right now, select star we have already seen. If we do select star from employees, we see we get all the result. Right, if we do that, then we get all the results. Now what does count star do? If I do count star, okay, it gives me the number of rows that are there in my table. Okay, what does count star do? It gives me number of rows that is there in my table. That's to find out the number of rows. So I have count star to find out number of rows. Then I also can do as count columns. Okay, and I can also do as count expression, or I can also do as count distinct and then column. All of these I can do. Okay, let's see how this behaves differently. So I have 107 rows in my table, right? If I do select count of commission underscore PCT from employees, it gives me only 35. Why it is giving me only 35? Because this is a group function, and I mentioned all my group functions, they ignore null values. They ignore null values. So that's why it did not calculate the null value into the calculation. It did not consider that null value into the calculation. So that's why it is giving 35, right? So I can do that as also. If I want to quickly find out how many rows I have where I do not have a null, this is the way to do it. If I want to know the total number of rows with the null as well, but I want to use commission percent, then I will very simply use NVL. Okay, and I will change this to 0. So if I do that, I'm doing a nested function. One is a group function, other one is a single row function. I'm doing a nested function, and what I'm saying is if commission percent is null, then make it 0 and then give me a count of that. Okay, and it gives me 107, which is exactly same as count star, right? So I can do that also. Okay, so let's go back. So this is what I get when I say select count star from employees where department ID is equal to 15. It is giving me the number of rows. So basically number of employees. Okay, number of employees who are in department 50. So total number of employees in department 50 are 5. So that's how I can find out, right? If I want to know how many of these employees who are in department 50 earn commission percent, okay, earn commission percent. So there are two ways to do it, right? I can just say count commission underscore PCT, where employees is this. Okay, where employees is this, and I get 45, right? So total there are 45 employees in department ID 50, but I want to know how many of the employees in department ID 50 earn commission percent. Okay, can someone tell me how can I do that? Okay, I'll change this to commission underscore PCT, and this will ignore the null values, and it will give me the exact amount, right? 0. None of them earn commission percent because because it ignored the null value. So all of them has null. Okay, let's see who does not have null. Okay, so select star from employees. Okay, let's find out at least one department that does not give me a 0, and find out who has a commission percent. So if I go down, I see department ID 80. So let's change this to 80. Okay, let's change this to 80 and run it. So if you see 80, 34 people are getting commission percent in department ID 80, right? Maybe it's a sales department or whatever. So 30%. Now let's change this to star, and star will give me 45. Oh, the department ID is, I changed the department ID. So total is 40. So all of them are earning commission percent basically. That's what it is. So all of them are earning, all of them in a department 80 are earning commission percent, right? So that's how I can do I can find out if how many of them are earning commission percent, how many of them are not earning commission, I mean in total. Now I can do it in another way. Okay, if I want to know how many of my employees earn commission percent who are in department ID. Okay, I'll say select count star from employees where department ID is equal to 50 and commission underscore PCT. What do I do here? Commission underscore PCT is not null, right? Then what it will do, it will say commission percent is not null. That means only those employees in department ID who are earning commission percent. Give me the query. Now it's going to give me 34 only because everyone is earning, but I'm just giving you an example. So this is how I can run. I can do one more thing. Instead of this, I can use NVL comma 0, and then I can say is equal to 0, right? That way I will get everyone. Okay, that way I will get everyone. All right, so let's change this to, let's go back. So this is how we do count star. Now the other query is exactly same what we did, and they did use department ID 80. So select count commission from employee where department ID is 80. So count star returns the number of rows in a table that satisfy the criteria, right? And count expression returns the number of non-null values that are in column. Okay, because group ignores, group function ignores null value. Now let's see one more thing. If I say select, I want to find out, okay, how many of my employees have unique name. Okay, their name is not repeated, for example. Okay, they have a unique name. First of all, I don't even know whether if there is anyone who has the same last name. Probably there are, but if I do this, right, it's going to give me all of my employees. So if I want a unique name only, then I'll say distinct, and I can say distinct inside my count. Inside my count, I'm using a distinct last name, and then once I get distinct last name, then do the count of that. Okay, see 102. So there are at least 5 who were repeated, who had the same last name, right? So I get like that. Okay, here it is. So count distinct expression returns the number of distinct non-null value expression. Okay, this returns the number of unique non-null values that is identified in the expression. To display the number of distinct department values in the employees table, this is the query. They are doing the distinct of department ID. That way I will know how many departments are there. If I don't have a, I can also do a select distinct department ID and then quickly count it, or I can do the count here. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. Now group functions and null values. Now here we have already seen that how group functions ignore null values, right? So if we run this, let's see what happens when we run this. So when we run this, we are getting the average commission percent of 0.22, right? 0.22. So that means, because what I'm doing is I am saying average commission percent and it ignored all null values. So how it takes the commission percent? It does the sum of all commissions, okay, all commissions that are there in the row, divided by total number of rows, right? That's how we do the sum, the average, right? That's how the average works, right? What is the formula for average? The formula for average, this is math. So formula for average is sum of the total commission, like here we are doing the commission. So total commission divided by total number of rows, right? That's how I get this sum. But total number of rows, it will count differently, because
Total
it
number
will
of commissions it should be.
come again.
It should be total number of divided by total number of commissions, not the total of number of rows, because there are rows with null.
Yes, you are right. So it should be divide, not the rows, but total number of commissions. So how can I do that with total number of commissions? I have to tell this guy that please don't ignore null values, include null values also, right? But here it is going to ignore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say NVL and make these null values to 0. That way my sum is not changed, because 0 plus 0 is nothing. My sum is not changed and my number of rows is also increased, right? So see here it was 0.22, right? If I run it now, it is reduced because my number of rows has increased. So it is reduced 0.07, right? So that way I can use the average. So do not get confused with this. Lot of the times whenever somebody asks us, give me the average of students in each class, right? And we make a mistake, right? We ignore the null values. I mean, student is a bad example, but any other example where there are null values, we ignore the null values. We don't think that there will be null values ignored in the average function. We have to convert that into 0 first. So this is a very common mistake and very commonly asked question in the interview, that if you want to take the average, how are you going to take the average? I am going to use 0 because I do not want nulls to be ignored. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Now we will see, now we have seen all the group functions, right? We have seen the group functions. I'm not going to go with the standard deviation and the variance because hardly used, and plus standard deviation is very is used only in when you are doing some kind of a mathematical calculation or something like that. So you guys do it by yourself and tell me how it works. Okay, standard deviation. All right. The next one is creating groups of data. So until this point in our discussion, all group functions have treated the table as one large group of information, right? So when we are saying select count star from employees, we are taking the whole table. When we are saying select average of commission percent, we are taking the whole table, right? So until this point, all group functions have treated the table as one large group. But sometimes we need to divide the table of information into smaller groups. How we can do that? So here you can see that I want the average salary of employees for each department. Okay, if I say select average salary from employees, it will give me the average salary for all the employees, but I want it by each department. Okay, not for everyone, for each department I want the average salary. How much was the average salary for department 20? Okay, how much was the average salary for department 50? Like that. How can I do that? For that I have to use group by function, group by clause. Okay, group by clause. And believe me, this, and then there is one more. Two clauses are the last clause, are the only clauses. After that we'll have the we'll have other syntaxes for similar to where, but those are the syntax, the clauses end here. Okay, so the group by, how we use the group by clause. How do we do that? So here we'll say select and then the column, okay, comma, then the group function. Okay, it's up to us whether we want the column or not. If we do not want column, we can just totally ignore it. It's up to our choice, depending on what kind of query we are running, what report we want to generate. So select column group function from table. These are mandatory, right? Select and from is mandatory. Then where condition optional. Then group by, okay, because we are going to divide the table into subgroups. So group by, and then we have to tell how we want to divide the group, the table, and then order by. Again, the order by is optional. Okay, so let's move on and see how that actually works. However, there are some certain restrictions and certain guidelines that we need to always remember. First is, if we include a group function in a select clause like this, sorry, like this, if we use a group function in select clause, we cannot get the result of individual columns. Okay, it has to have a group function. Okay, we cannot do that unless we use a group by function. So basically what I mean is, if I do this, for example, if I do okay, if I do this, and if I say I want the average salary for with the department, I don't have a department ID, right? I have department underscore ID. Okay, and let's put the NVL, I don't care. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, I am saying, okay, I want department ID and average salary on each department. Okay, run this. Okay, I cannot get the result because I haven't divided it. So it's saying not a single group function. I did not say group by. So what I mean is, I can, if I'm using a group function in my select statement with a column, I cannot run this without a group by clause. That's what I meant. So this is first guideline. Wherever you have a group by function, you have a group function with a individual column name, you have to use group by. Otherwise, you're not going to get a result. It's always going to give you an error. Then where clause, right? Where clause will exclude with the where clause, I can limit my rows, right? I can filter my rows, right? So I can still use the where clause, but if I want to filter the rows of after my group function is done, based on the group function, I cannot use group where clause. I have to use something else, and I'm going to show you what you can use. Third, if I am using group by here, if I say group by, okay, then I have to use all these columns that I am putting here, all the columns. Right now I have only one, but if I have more, I have to put all of them. I cannot just say department ID and then let's say I have an employee ID here, okay, and I just say department ID. Okay, it's going to give me an error. So it's going to throw me an error. Okay, not a group by expression, because I want this also. So that's the third guideline. Then fourth is, we cannot use a alias. So for example, if I say here as ABC, like I'm giving an alias to employee ID, right? Let's say for the department ID, I give DEP, right? And I say group by DEP. Okay, I cannot do that. In order by, I can. In group by, I cannot. Remember this, order by allows me to use a alias, but group by does not allow me to use a alias. So these are some guidelines that I need to always follow. And if you don't follow, of course, you are going to get a error. So there is no other choice. All right. So now let's see how group by works. So here, let's run this and see how group by works. So what I'm doing is I am saying by department ID, okay, but for each department give me the average salary, okay, and it gives me the average salary by each department. The only problem is this result is not meaningful to me. Why? Because I haven't used the department ID. I haven't shown the department ID here. I should, if I show the department ID, it becomes more meaningful. However, the query is right, but it's not meaningful. So if I want to make it meaningful, I will just type the department ID also. And once I type the department ID, I see the average salary on department ID 50 is 3475.5, right? That's where I can use the group by statement. All right, let's move on and see how it works for the other one. Okay, so now we have learned how we use the department ID. I mean, how we can use the group by on a single column, like for example here, right? So we can do that. Now, sometimes there may be a need where I want to do a to do a further division, okay, of a table. So I divided it into one set of group, and then I want to divide it further. That there could be a need like that, okay. So in this slide, what you see here, you can see, and let me enlarge it. So in this slide, I don't know if you can see, but in this slide, what I'm doing is I'm displaying the total salary that is paid to each job title in each department. Okay, total salary, this is the salary to each job ID in each department. That is, my job ID is repeated here. Okay, if you see, my job ID is repeated here. So in each department, so first what I did, I subdivided my table into each department. Then within that department, I subdivided it into job ID. Okay, and then I got the average salary. Okay, let's see how that works. So let's see how that works. Okay, let's remove this order by ID for now. Okay, and let's remove this also. Okay, and then let's just run it. So what it's doing is, what I'm doing is I'm saying select department ID. Okay, show me the department ID, job ID, sum of salary from employees, group by department ID and job ID. So what it's doing is it's grouping the department ID, and then within the department ID, it's grouping the job ID. Okay, it's grouping the job ID. Let's see somewhere where I see the it's repeated. So for example, here you see it's repeated, right? Department ID, within the department ID 90, I get job ID ADVP and the total salary of this. Then within the department ID 90, the AD press some total salary is this. Within the department ID, I don't have more 90, so like that. But this is still not readable, right? Because it's not coming in one in the order of department ID. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say order by department underscore ID to make it more readable. Okay, to make it more readable, this is what I do, and then it gives me the exact amount, the exact report that I'm looking for. So in department ID, first the table is divided into department ID, so 10, 20, 30 like that, and then within that department ID, it is further divided into job ID. So 20 MK men. So total number of employees, whoever are working in MK as a MK man, I think marketing manager, their total salary is 13,000 in department 20. Similarly, in department 20, whoever is working as marketing rep, their total salary is 6,000. Right? Similarly, in department ID 30, whoever working PU clerk is this. Right? So like that, what I'm doing, I am dividing the table into multiple columns. So the group by clause group rows, but does not uh, it not only group rows, but it also further groups it based on your select statement. Right? Now we have seen that if I don't do give order by, it gives me a random order, right? So that's the same across the board. Whenever I say select from the table, it does not order by on its own. I have to specifically mention, and same is the case here. I have to specifically mention it does not do the order by on its own. Um, right? So that's what we have seen here. Now let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is the query, and I didn't run the whole query. Let's run the whole query. Okay, so now we are running the whole query. So what it's doing is, here I am using all my clauses. Okay, my select clause, my from clause, my where clause, my group by clause, and my order by clause. All five clauses I am using. So what it's doing here, okay, first it's taking its when it's parsing the statement, it says it checks select, and then it knows that I have to select these two columns. Okay, and then based on, and then I have to take the sum of salary. Okay, and from where? From employees table, where department ID is greater than 40. Okay, department ID is greater than 40. So first it will run only here, up to here. And what it will do is, it will first uh, filter the total number of rows based on my where condition. So my where condition is department ID is greater than 40. So it's going to first, internally it's not showing me, but internally it's doing. So it's running select department ID, job ID, and salary from employees where department ID is greater than 40. Right now it has not done any sum because it knows there is a where condition, so it cannot do a sum. So it's just bringing three columns. Internally it's doing it where department ID is greater than 40. So all those 10, 20, 30 and 40 are gone, and from 40 onwards it's bringing. So what it does, it filtered down the number of rows. Then after that, it's doing the group by department ID and job ID, right? At this point, it's doing the calculation for the sum. It's dividing those rows which it has got. Those rows it's dividing into subdivision, subgroup by department ID, and then further by job ID, and then it is taking the sum of the salary based on this group. Okay, based on group by, and then once it gets that result, then on top of that it's doing order by. Okay, so basically what it's doing, it's doing the first set of rows, okay, with the where clause, second with the group by, third with the order by. Right, order by will not change the number of rows, but it's doing the three functions. Right, so the rows are grouped, when I'm using the group by, the rows are grouped by the department ID. Second, the rows are grouped by the job ID in the department ID. Right, so all of this it's doing. Okay, do you guys have any questions here?
Okay, I'm good. I actually had a question, but while you were talking, I got it right, so I'm good.
You don't have any question now?
No, because I was actually like, okay, since you said group by, and we had various department IDs that were with number 50, and okay, so if it's grouping it, why do we have two or three different 50s? So I discovered that the job IDs were different. We had ST Clark, we have SH underscore
Yes.
Clark. So when I saw these distinct job IDs, I knew what happened. I knew, okay, all right, it was really working well.
Yes, yes, that's right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier with the guidelines, okay, you are always going to get error if you are not following the guideline. Okay. Here it's going to give you an error. Why? Because I'm using department ID in my select clause with a group function, and I'm not specifying any group by. Okay, and I'm not specifying any group by. If I remove this department ID, okay, then I'm fine. Then I get the result because it's doing the total count of all the last names. But when I want by the department ID, okay, it's not doing that. I'm sure in the coming years, they may change the SQL statement to make it more intelligent to understand that even if I have not given the group by, and I just mentioned group by here. I mean, I just mentioned an individual column here. I meant a group by. Okay, I am hoping that it will understand that, because actually the group by statement is not uh, it's basically a waste if I am uh, just using the same department ID or whatever number of column that I'm putting it here. Okay, but here is a catch. Catch is, okay, I can say department ID, okay, comma, and then job underscore ID, okay, and run this statement, and it does it. So it does not care whether this particular column is there in the select clause or not, but what it cares is if this column is in the select statement, then it must be present in the group by. So even then I can do this. Okay, I can say department ID. It will give me the logically it will give me a wrong answer. Okay, but what it's doing is it's saying it's doing this exact same thing, but what it's doing is saying 10 department ID, wherever department ID is 20, what is the count of rows for that per a job ID. Okay, because it's dividing in the job ID, but because I'm not printing a job ID, I'm not able to read it correctly. I may get confused why this is coming 20 twice. Okay, but there may be some times where I do not want a particular column to be printed. Okay, I just want it this way, and I don't want people to see how I subdivided my table. So that way I can in that scenario I can use it. Okay, so what we learned here is for group by to work, whatever individual columns that I am putting in the select statement, those individual elements have to be in the group by. In addition to that, group by can have any other column which I have not specified in the select clause. Okay, so that's what I have learned. Also, I have learned is group by cannot use alias. Okay, so that's another thing I've learned. I think we are going to be seeing that in the next slide. If don't, then we have already seen that anyway. Okay, now here exactly same thing. I am using job ID here in the select clause, but I am not putting job ID in the group by. Okay, it's going to give me an error, not a group by, not a group by. Okay, if I remove the group by completely, then also I'm going to get an error, not a single group by. Okay, so that's why it's going to give me an error. Now, okay, now what I'm doing is I am running this query, okay, and see how this works. Okay, okay, it's giving me error. Can someone tell me why it's giving me error? Because the where clause cannot be used to restrict groups. Where clause, I am restricting groups with the where clause. Average salary, I'm putting average salary here in the where clause. If I just say salary, then it will work. Okay, then it should work, though it will not, right? Then it will work. But I want average salary. Okay, I want average salary to be greater than 800 on only those should show up. Okay, where average salary is greater than 800 in the department ID. Only those should show up. So the where clause cannot be used to restrict those, right? That's what we have learned here. The select statement in this example, we can see it's going to give us error, right? Now, how can we correct this? How can we correct this? We cannot use where clause here. Okay, there is another clause that we have to use, which is similar to where clause, but it's called differently. It's called having. Okay, having. And now I'm going to use the same condition what I gave for my where clause. Okay, exact same condition, and now it will work. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm saying select all the department ID and their average salary from employees, of course group by department ID, where. Okay, now after group by I'm saying where, it's basically a where, but it's called as having. So having average salary is greater than 8,000. Okay, so show me only those where average salary is greater than 8,000, because if I don't do that, right, if I run for everybody, then I'm going to get for everybody, right, for all the, even when it's not greater than 8,000, even for 5,000 6,000 it's coming. But I don't care about those. I care only about where average salary is greater than 8,000. Maybe I don't want to give them bonus for their department. If their average salary is greater than 8,000 in a particular department, I don't want to give them bonus, right? If their average salary is less than 8,000 in all those departments, only for those departments I want to give the bonus. So I'm saying having average salary is greater than 8,000, right? So that's how I use the having clause. So what I'm trying to do here is I am saying I am using the instead of the where clause, I have to use the having clause to restrict the groups, right? So that's what it is. And also in the where clause, I can never use a group function. In the where clause, I can never use the group function. Whenever I want to use a group function, I have to use a having clause. I can use where clause, I can use single row functions in my where clause. Okay, I can use single row functions in my where clause. For example, I can do this. Of course, where clause have to go up before group by. It has to be in the order, otherwise it will give me an error. Okay, so this is what I can do. I can use a single row function, but I cannot use a group by function. I mean a group function. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So next slide tells me that I have to use the having clause instead of the where clause when I am using the, when I want to restrict my group function, right? Now the having clause, where it will be in this order only. Okay, all the time your query has to be in this order only. Your order by clause have to be the last. Okay, must be last. It cannot go before any other clause, so it has to be last. Your after from clause, if you have a where clause, it goes after from clause. Okay, if you have a group by clause, it goes after where clause or after from clause, based on whether you have a where clause or not. If you have a having clause, it goes after group by. But these two I can exchange. I can put having before and group by. But the only problem with that is when I'm running the query, I may get confused saying having, and I haven't put a group by there and I'm doing having. So I haven't done this the division of the table into multiple rows, but I am putting a restriction on it, so I may get confused. So that's why we don't do it that way. But if somebody asks you in the interview, can you have a having clause before the group by, the answer is yes, but we don't do it because we get confused. And it's always a good practice to use group by first before the having. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so now it's saying how to use the having clause. Let's run this and then we'll see. We have already seen one, but let's see how this works. Okay, so in this example we can see that I'm getting the department numbers and maximum salaries for those departments with a maximum salary greater than 10,000. Okay, so I'm getting the department ID and the maximum salary of only those departments where maximum salary is greater than 10,000. Okay, so this is how I'm using the group by function. All right, now let's say instead of the maximum salary I want to also select average salary. I want to select average salary instead of max salary, right? But I want to put having as max. So basically what I want is I want to display the department numbers and average salaries of for those departments where the maximum salary is greater than 10,000. Okay, let me write it. It's getting it's confusing. It's a confusing statement. What's going on? Okay, I don't know why it's behaving like that. Okay, it's gone. Okay, so what I'm doing is I want to display department ID. So department, I'll just say DEP ID. Okay, and average salary for those departments where maximum salary is greater than 10,000 or 10,000, right? If I do this, it's giving me the maximum salary instead of the average salary. Maximum salary instead of the average salary, right? So let's change it to, but I want the average salary. So let's change it to average salary here. And this max salary I haven't changed. So I can use that way. Okay, I can have two different group functions in two different clauses. So my having can have a different group function, even though that particular group function is not used in my select statement. As long as I have some other group function in my select statement, I can use having, I can use group by. Okay, so what I'm trying to achieve, I'm saying department ID and average. You give me department ID and average salary for all those departments where maximum salary is greater than 10,000. Let's run this and see if it works. And it works, right? So it's giving me the average salary for all those departments where maximum salary is greater than 10,000. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next one is we have another example for the group by statement. Now here what we are doing is we are displaying job ID, total monthly salary for each job where the total payroll is exceeding to 13,000. Okay, and I want to exclude, not include, I want to exclude this from job ID wherever the job ID is wrapped. Okay, so I want to exclude all the representatives. If there is a sales representative or any other marketing representative or whoever it is, I want to exclude them, and then I want to sort it by the sum of the salary. Okay, so you see how my queries are becoming more harder and harder, but I can achieve whatever result I want. Okay, these are all based on our use for our analysis, right? So there may be a case where you want your, if you are working as a HR or in the HR department, there may be a time where they may say, okay, you know what, we want to display the payroll amount, okay, which is the total salary, the payroll amount for all the employees who are not the representatives, okay, all the employees who are not the representatives, and for each job ID, where the total salary is greater than 13,000, okay, and then order it by the in the ascending order of the total salary, okay. All right, let me write it down so that we can see what I'm trying to achieve here, okay. So what I'm doing is I'm displaying let's say job ID and then payroll amount, okay. Payroll amount is what? Payroll amount is the sum of the salary. So payroll amount, which is of course the monthly salary, okay. This is not the average salary, annual salary. If had it been annual salary, then I would multiply it by 12, okay, for each job. So basically, if it's a marketing job, for its sales job, or some other manager job or something. So for each job, I want how much is my payroll amount, how much I'm spending for each title, okay, in my company, how much I'm spending. And then I want to make sure that it's for this job, because I don't care about those who are earning less than 13,000 in that title, okay. So I want only for those titles who earn more than 13,000 in total salary, in a payroll, where I'm spending more than 13,000 in a monthly payroll. Only for those job titles I want. So then for each job that has total monthly payroll for greater than 13,000, okay, I think I repeated this, okay, total payroll for 13,000. And then I want to sort this result in ascending order, of my payroll. This is the query, okay. So the query is difficult, right? But if I know how to do that, I will do it this way. So whenever I have this query as big as this, I have to divide my query, okay. I have to divide my query. So I will divide it from here to here first, okay. I will not do this, I will not do this, I will only do up to here. Display job ID and payroll amount for each job, and I'll not do this also, okay. And this is what I'm going to get for each job, okay. So for each job I'm getting my payroll, monthly payroll. This is for each job. Then it says actually I did not put one more condition here. It says only for exclude, I mean it says not for representatives. So exclude them, because I know representatives earn more, sales representatives will earn more anyway, and I don't want them to get mad at me because they bring business to me, right? So exclude representatives. So when I'm saying not for representatives, okay, exclude them in my query, then I know I want to put the where clause to exclude the sales representative. As soon as I do that, it will not include the sales representatives, I mean the representatives, and it will give me the salary for each job title excluding the representatives, okay. This is what it's going to give me, right? And then after that, I know that I have to give the result only where the payroll, where the total amount of salary is that I'm spending, the total payroll amount monthly greater than 13,000. Then I know I will put having, okay. Then so I have divided it that way. Then after whatever result I'm getting, then it says sort it in ascending order of my payroll, okay. Right now it's not sorted in ascending order because I can see like this one should be before the others, right? So let's say if I do this and then I run it, right, then you can see my killer Okay, the total number, how many number of employees the clerk, how many clerks do I have? Based their total monthly payroll is only 13,900, but it may be that I have more clerks, right? That's why it has increased to 13,900. Maybe not all my clerks are earning good amount, but maybe 800, 800,000, whatever. But I have 13 clerks or 15 clerks, and it's giving me more than 13,000. So I can find out how much money I'm spending on each job title every month, okay, excluding sales representative. And then if I want to fire somebody, I can see that way, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. I think we completed here. Maybe one more. Yeah, we have one more, which is the nesting group function. So the nesting group function, this we have already seen one thing. What we have seen is, we have seen the nested single row functions, right? So what I mentioned in this nested single row function, I mentioned that my nested single row function can have multiple um, functions. I can include multiple functions within my select statement or in my where clause, right? Or only two places I can have. I can also have in my order by clause, by the way. So in my select clause, in my where clause, in my order by clause, I can have multiple nested functions. I can have something like this, and we saw yesterday NVL, right? On top of NVL, we can have upper, right? And on top of upper, we can have 2 underscore char or whatever, right? Or number or whatever. So I can have multiple, right? Here also I can have nested functions, but they are limited to only two. Okay, they are limited to only two. Why they are limited to only two? Because the 2 is the lowest level I can go. It will automatically bring it down to the lowest number of rows, basically one single row. Okay, let's run this. It's giving me single row. So this is the how further can I divide a single row? I cannot divide a single row with with anything. So that's why I can do only 2. So what I'm trying to do here is, I'm trying to calculate average salary for each department ID and then displaying the maximum average salary. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to do the average salary first. Let's do this. Okay, let's do it this way. Department ID, right? Department underscore ID, comma. Okay, and then let's do average underscore salary. Okay, and then do this. So this is what it's doing first. So based on department ID, it's doing the average salary. Okay, just ignore this. Okay, it's doing the average salary. So it's doing the average salary for each department ID. And then, so it's bringing me a lot of rows. See how many 12 rows I am getting. So it's bringing me all those 12 rows, because for all these departments, I have 12 departments. So for all these departments, what is the average salary it's bringing? And then on top of that, I am saying give me only the maximum salary. Okay, only the maximum salary. What I could have also done is, I could have also said order by average salary in descending order. Okay, but that will still give me all these 12 rows, but at least I'll get in descending order, which is 19,333, right? But now what I'm doing is, I'm saying now you give me the maximum of the salary in whichever department it is. So maximum salary. Okay, now give me that. Oh, you know why? Because I cannot use a department ID here, because that's why it's saying not a group by. So now it is telling me, because I cannot have a group by here, right? That who is the, what is the maximum salary for each first I'm doing the average salary for each department, and then the maximum of the average. maximum of the average. So it doesn't matter what department it is, right? The maximum of the average. So it's giving me the maximum of the average is 19,333. I could have also achieved that by doing the order by and finding it out, but sometimes I need to run a query, put it somewhere, and find out that way. So that way it's easier. And also, if I have lot of rows, why to do the order by, right? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to say that you can do the nested function, but the nested function will be only up to the depth of two functions. You cannot have more than two functions. I cannot, because it's already giving me one single row. How can I do one more here? Maybe not min, but let's say what else was there? Max, min, average, count. Let's say, how can I put count here? Let's say, group function is nested too deeply, right? So it does not allow you that way. Okay, let's move on. Let's see what do we have next. Okay, so next we have a quiz. Guys, unmute yourself and give me the answer for this. Identify the guidelines for group functions and the group by clause. Okay, what are the guidelines for the group function and the group by clause? I give you the guidelines. Which of these are true? Any idea?
4.
The group by clause groups rows and ensures order of the result set. Okay. Okay, Shika, do you have any idea?
Oh, I'm still reading it. One is true. You
Okay.
cannot use the column alias.
Okay.
Second is true too.
Okay.
In where clause you can exclude rows. And I think the third one is true too.
3 is true.
But I do not, yeah, and I do not think that the fourth one is correct, because group by clause groups the columns, I believe.
Okay.
Not the rows.
Okay. Guys, mute yourself and I'll tell you what the right answer is. Okay, both of you are wrong. Let's see here. It says you cannot use a column alias in the group by clause, right? This is correct. You cannot use the column alias in the group by clause. I told you and I showed you also that column alias can be used in order by clause, but in the group by clause you cannot use column alias. So this is correct. Now the group by column must be in the select clause. In the select clause, how can we have a group by column in the select clause? Okay, let's see it here. So it says that group by column should be in the select clause. So this is my group by
But
column.
one of them has to be there. Is that not correct?
Which one?
I remember that you said that one of the, like if you're using two, then one of them has to be in the select clause. The other one can be or cannot be. Is that not true?
No, this is true. But what I'm saying is group by column must be in the select clause. So when I'm saying must be, so if I do like this, job underscore ID, right, and I'm saying here like this, right, will it run or will it not run? Oh, sorry, let's say, yeah, I didn't put the in the select clause any of these, and
I
I'm
don't
saying
think so.
you don't think it will run?
Oh, okay.
See, it ran because I showed you, right? One also can be there, none also can be there.
Oh, okay.
2 can also be
I
there, 3 can
misunderstood you.
also be there, doesn't matter.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so that's why it is wrong, because it says must. Now the third is, by using a where clause, you can exclude rows before dividing them into group. Now this is correct, because by using a where clause, you can exclude rows before dividing them into groups. So if I have a from where clause here, where job underscore ID is equal to is like percent wrap, something like that. So what it's going to do, it's going to first run this where clause, right? I told you guys, right? First it's going to filter the number of rows that it has to fetch. So it will fetch less number of rows. So by using a where clause, we are excluding the rows, and then we are going to be dividing it after excluding it. So first, if you have a where clause, it will run the where clause first, exclude the number of rows so that it runs for a particular condition, and limits, filter it down, and then it divides. Because what is the point of dividing it? If I divide it, if I divide it first, and then if I do where clause, okay, I will not even get the right result, because my average salary will consider my average consider salary will have already taken that job ID as wrap into account. So I will not even get a correct result, right? So that's why where clause always have to be before the group by clause. And where clause, if I have a where clause, then it will first filter it down, bring only those number of rows that I need based on my where clause, and then divide my result. Whatever my result is, then it will divide that result further, okay, into groups. So this is correct. Okay, so this one is correct. Okay, this one was wrong. Then the group by clause group rows and ensures order of the result set. Okay, it group by clause group rows, this is correct. It groups rows, okay, this is correct. But it says ensures order of the result set. How can it ensure the order? It doesn't even know what order I want, and it gives a random order.
It gives a random order, except to use the order by. So it's wrong.
Yes, it is wrong. So this is also wrong. So the correct answer is 1 and 3. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we are going to end our class here for day 5, and we will learn. Now we are going to be learning the how to obtain data from multiple tables. Till date, we have only obtained data from single table, whether it's employees, whether it's department, but only from a single table. Now we are going to be seeing how we can take the data from multiple tables. So there could be a possibility, and there always a possibility that they want you to see for a particular department name. Nobody knows about department ID. I don't care about department ID. What 50 department ID is, I don't even know. So my department name for department ID 50 is stored in departments table, and my employee names are stored in employees table. So I want to run a query where I want to see all my employees, the name of all the employees and their department names, all the employees and their department names. So I don't have a department name in my employee table. I have a department name in my departments table. Okay, if you run this, I don't have a department name column here. See, I don't even have a department name. I just have a department ID. Okay. But if I run departments, I have a department name here. So I want to see which employee works for which department. So of course I have to get the data from both the tables. So that's we are going to learn this coming Sunday. All right, guys, we will end the session here, and I will send you the practice for this one as well. And since we have 2 days, 3 days, let's do the practice, and then we'll learn more. The queries are going to get more complicated with the more analysis, with the more analytical views, and it's better if we can complete up to here. All right.
All right. Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good
All right,
night.
thank you. Yeah, good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.